You can officially welcome us to Wednesday.
Hello, everybody. We are officially welcoming all of you to Wealth Weather Wednesday. We'll call it today. It's exciting times. People get excited for these moments. For those of us where it's unusual to get the extra cold and a little bit of snow on the ground, but it's also great opportunities for you to have a total focus day. I have gotten so much done today and plan on doing it this afternoon, just sitting right here at my desk and in my home, and I expect you guys to do the same. But welcome, congratulations for starting the year. Great the way many of you have. For those of you that are in the starting blocks, the gun has gone off. You can't start running now. The year is going. We're past the halfway point of the first month of 2025, which is just something you can't really wrap your head around. But that's what's going to happen, man. That seems like that time's picking up, going faster. But man, what an incredible opportunity we have to change our lives right now. It's an incredible time of change in the world. Regardless of what side of the aisle you happen to be on, we all know great change is coming, and we're gonna ride the change. We're gonna control the change. We're gonna be the change. That's exciting to me because your own personal economy is the only thing that really matters. We talk about that all the time, but we got a great program lined up for today, and I'm excited about that. And just by way of a couple of announcements, we do have the 24th in South Florida in Miami. We're going to be Hubert will be there flying down. He's got a handpicked group that gets to come over and see the company jet and get pictures in it and all that. So that's pretty cool. And then we got a leadership session in the afternoon at 3, and then that night we'll be having a big BOP, and then also him sharing his vision. So it's going to be exciting. So if you have anyone down there, or if you have someone on your list, if you ask your teammates, I mean, just do a little inventory. Who do you know in South Florida? Most everyone knows somebody in South Florida. So get them there. It's happening. It's a big deal. Um, you know, you don't know the schedules. It's going to be a while before we get this kind of an event back down there. So we're real excited. So that's this weekend.
What time is it?
It's the 3 to 5 is the training, and then 7 to 9 is the BOP and an overview. So it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have it. So once again, Miami will have it. If you need to know the information, we can put it in the chats, and so it's a hotel about 2 or 3 miles from the airport there. So it's gonna be awesome. I love growth. That's what this is all about. Opening areas. To me, you think about this. We talk about building, and we throw out the R word, the recruiting word, and all that. But in our business, it's all about distribution. And anytime a new person comes into business, it's literally like you're opening a new store. I mean, you can almost be as excited as somebody who went out and opened a new store. And that to me is what this is all about. As a matter of fact, I think what I would like to do as we go into this part of the presentation is it's kind of setting things up, and that is this. I really want you to have an acceptance of the numbers. And anytime you go into a business, you want to know what's the numbers. If you're going to buy a business, you're going to want to know what are the numbers. How many, is it near a traffic pattern where people are going to buy whatever it is you happen to buy? You want to know how much do I have to sell to make X? What are my margins? All those things that go with that. So in this business, there's no way around the numbers, and there's two numbers that you got to really accept and almost embrace, and that's the law of averages and the law of high numbers. Those are the two things that all this comes back to. It goes along with the two things that we talk about, because there are 6 steps, if you will. One is the distribution side, which is prospect and approach, and contact, presentation, follow up, start up, and duplicate. And then on the other side, with the financial planning side of things, if you will, you've got you earn more money, have an emergency fund, eliminate debt, have the right insurance, build wealth, and preserve wealth. Those are two things that we're actually going to have a visual that we're putting together. It's going to be kind of a little two-sided little card that you know that we're all about. Hey, do you know about the 2 6-step rules? And so we're going to have that put together for you. So, if you understand those, the part that goes into that first part of that, I think it's interesting. The first step on the building side is prospecting, obviously raw material, right? And then on the other side, the first step of the financial building your financial house is making more money, increasing cash flow. That's bringing in more numbers over there. So they're both like more coming into the funnel, if you will, because if you got to have the money coming in to be able to take care of all the other issues. Well, I want you to accept those and understand those. Some of you are of great desire, but that desire has got to turn into action for you to be successful. I heard there's a phrase right now that says increase your luck surface. And what that means is that it's just a clever way, a cool way of saying do more numbers. If you do more numbers, you got a chance to have good things happening. So you got a chance to be lucky, if you will. So increase your luck surface, give yourself the probabilities to succeed. It's all about probabilities. And, in golf, if you hit the ball on the green, you got a chance to be successful. If you don't, you're probably not. Same thing with basketball. The guys who have the highest percentage of making their shots are the guys who shoot real close to the basket. So here we want to create scenarios where you're more than likely going to have success. Now you can be blind lucky, which is just go land some big sell or recruit some whale, if you will, but that's probably not going to happen. Or if it does, it will happen in the context of you having a lot of activity. So if you will get yourself set, come regimented, treat this like a business. Treat this as if it's your Fortune 500 business and you're the CEO, you are the captain of your ship. And if you don't steer it, it's going to go down. If you treat yourself that way and you have that consistent effort every single day and you have a plan in place, you're going to be successful. So having said all that, know that if you don't do that, nothing we tell you, nothing we show you can help you become successful. Even the greatest idea, the greatest product, we have the greatest products in the world. I just want to think about this for a second. I want you to think about insurance with living benefits. I just want to stop and I want to isolate a couple of things. Think about that product. I cannot imagine a better scenario that you should be able to go out as Paul Revere running around saying, hey, you got to have this. The British are coming, you got to go and just calling on everybody and saying, look, do you have living benefits? Do you have, and starting with just that. And what a miracle product, what a miracle concept. Then a will and a trust. Everybody comes into this year knowing they need that. Are you going out just loudly and proudly leading with that? And then you go from there to the whole tax-free retirement opportunities that are available. And then all the products that we have. Understand that we have these incredible products, but the fish aren't going to jump in the boat. No one's going to all of a sudden start ringing your phone. And listen, I'm all for technology and I love it. I embrace it. I believe that it is the future. But people are not just going to come run by from you. Even in technology, they're not going to unless you have, that you're posting or that you have a way for them to find you. Right now, there's no way that you could have someone accidentally fall into your lap. So open your mouth, be proud, be excited, and be bold as we go forward. And all that leads us to talk about conversations. That's what today we're going to talk about is the power of conversations, because the conversation leads into everything else. Okay. Because at some point, a conversation has to happen, whether it is the first thing or the second thing or the third thing. If you happen to be having some kind of drip campaigns or, funnels or whatever, somewhere conversations got to happen. And how you have that conversation is pivotal. Now, what we're getting ready to talk about can be true. This conversation takes place whether it's internal consumption or whether it's just someone else that happens to be buying a product. Either one of those, this conversation is going to take place. If it's internal consumption, it's taking place right after their startup. Is a launch, and right there simultaneously or just a little bit after, that's where you have that conversation. So having said that and setting that up and hopefully in an exciting way, let's kind of lead them down that. So Kimberly, I'll turn it over to you to well actually if we want to, we got Tim O'Rourke with us. Okay, and I knew Tim just hopped on. So let's
Yeah.
let Tim just take a couple of minutes and just set us up as we come into the year. Boy, what an exciting week. Just to be able to go through another inauguration. And I'm so proud to be in a country that, even if there's slight turbulence sometimes as they go through the transitions, just the fact that we're able to have transitions of power is just a phenomenal thing. It's almost a very, humbling thing to see. So, Tim, I know that that's also causing ripples in many areas of the world. So, take us through that for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Jody. I find this fascinating to watch this whole process and kind of all the characters behind the scenes that are in the background of all this. And after one president and then the other one, and now the Trump administration had a 4-year hiatus, and now they're back in action again. It seems like they've learned some lessons here, and it's almost like you see a different Trump this time and a different administration. They're almost a little bit better prepared for a better, image of what they're trying to accomplish. He's, getting somebody like Elon Musk on board, and they've got both houses, in their in on their side this time with control. And even Jamie Dimon, is kind of optimistic, even though he's kind of been a naysayer. So you've got this kind of aura of positivity, even though you've got these dynamics in the market that are still overwhelmingly pointing to a correction and have been for some time. But as I've stated, and everybody has heard me talk about this for a long time here, is we've got a lot of pressure still on inflation, especially with the use of tariffs. And Jody asked me to define again what tariffs are, just so let me just get a clear explanation again. It is like a tax. A tariff is a tax imposed by the United States on a foreign country's goods and services that come in, or goods that comes into this country, and it's imposed on them. So anything produced in Mexico, Canada, China, places like that, what Trump wants to do is impose a tax on those products coming into this country, a tariff, so that they, let's say there's a 20% tariff. In other words, a 20% tax on top of those. So let's say an automobile part for a steering wheel would cost General Motors or Ford or whoever who assembles the cars here 20% more on that part. So that would add on to the cost of that car, which is inflationary. So when you start looking at those kind of situations, you're looking at an inflationary impact on our ability to buy whatever is manufactured. Just think about all, we don't make and manufacture anything here anymore at all. What we do is we assemble things here, but they're products that, I mean, the components that we get are usually made in other parts of the world, and then they're shipped in, and then we assemble. So a lot of them come through Canada. That's why he's looking at imposing tariffs on all these different countries, especially Europe, Canada, Mexico, and of course, China. So that's going to be, there's going to be a trailing inflationary impact on that. So the markets are looking at this from the perspective of when is inflation going to be impacted by the new administration actually imposing tariffs on all these different countries and the different products that are being brought into this country. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is look at oil right now. It's I don't know if you've noticed at the gas pump, but oil has been staying up fairly high here for the last year now. We're in the $75 range on West Texas crude. We're over $80 on Brent. So Europe has had a huge impact on the price of oil, which is, the cost of actually shipping, um, through shipping actually on the water, and then shipping goods and services through trucks and different vehicles. And so that's an impact of inflation. And then Trump and obviously agrees with the Biden administration about Russia and trying to strangle them to stop the war in Ukraine. And that's the latest thing now that Trump's trying to do. So you've got all these kind of dynamics going on in our country with trying to, impose their will on different forms of correcting the wrongs, or correcting what we want to have seen done. Who's in charge? The U.S. still seems to be in charge of the world in one way or another, and we're using our political might, our might through our government and different means in order to get what we want. So I think the new administration is coming in here, and they're going to make some changes, and they've got both houses now in their control in order to do what they want. The market, oddly enough, is still very optimistic with the Trump administration coming in. They see that as very pro-business, which means, that they see the regulations are going to be lower, that it's going to give businesses better opportunities to prosper, to have more earnings, and some of that is coming true. I'm always going to say but here, but there are a lot of other factors here that were long in the tooth, that we are going to get a correction at some point. Something's going to trigger it. We just don't know when or what it is, but it is going to happen. We're way overpriced here. We're way overdue. And I always go back to, we've had such a long period of time here of zero interest rates, and now we've popped back up into, let's say, mortgages in that 7% range, where we used to have them at 3%. That 4% differential has had a huge impact on housing. On the housing market has been depressed now for the last 3-4 years, and so that has a huge effect on builders, on all aspects of products and services that feeds the housing market. So we're seeing this kind of play out in slow time, and at some point, this is all going to take its effect on the markets, on the different products and services that are offered, and then the strength of the dollar is the last thing I want to talk about right now. Strength of the dollar has been amazing, because as rates go up, that creates a stronger dollar. And as rates go down, it's going to weaken the dollar. And I don't know if you've watched the crypto much. The Bitcoin has really gone up over 100,000 again. It's kind of been teetering between 90,000, and now I think it's at the last time I saw it here today, it was over 105,000, 104 right now. It's down 2,000, 2,200 today. That thing can move 2-3% in 1 hour at a time. So we're seeing that flight to safety. Sometimes gold is up over the last year, somewhere in that 25-30% range. So you're seeing, when Paul Dietrich does his permanent portfolio, what it is, it's a mix of gold, bonds, cash, and it's kind of a balancing act, that no matter what the markets do, it's going to give you basically a bond return, a safe bond return. So in any kind of predictable market, you're going to get a safe return. That's kind of how that design is, and the permanent portfolio is what you put people in, if you want a safe kind of return in a unknown market, which is, I think, where we're at right now. When you're seeing market highs like we're in the Dow Jones is 44,000, S&P is almost 6,100, NASDAQ is over 20,000. These are extremely high ranges that we're in a 15 going on 16-year cycle. And also we're in a negative, what I would call a negative bond market. This is the first time we've seen this in about 20 years. We've seen actually we've turned the market around, and we're in a bear market in the bond market. So a lot of dynamics playing out here, which is kind of fun to watch from my perspective. That I've been doing this for about 40 years. It's we see cycles all the time. Ray Dalio is somebody I read a lot of information from. Zach and Kimberly, you guys watch him too. I know you've read a lot from him and seen him over the years. He's the guy that Bridgewater Capital is the largest hedge fund manager in the world. I think he manages around $200 billion. He watches these kind of larger term cycles and what happens and how this all changes. And this is one of the things he watches is the bond cycle. So after 30 years of a bull bond market, now we're into 4 years of a bear bond market cycle, and how that's going to impact the markets. And predictably, it's probably got another 10 to 12 years left of what I would call a bear bond market cycle coming. So that doesn't bode well for real estate, doesn't bode well for long-term equity markets. So we're going to see a correction here. And again, I always focus back on the importance of how that structure helps our business, helps us be in the right place at the right time. So anyway, that's my report for today. Jody, back to you, or Zach and Kimberly.
Thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate it, guys. I love the information that we get from Tim. I really do. It's awesome. I think it gives us the power to go out and be emboldened and to be plugged in. Most of you guys don't have the time to do all the reading, that you probably would like to do. Gives you a chance just to come in and get a little Cliff Notes version of what's going on in the world and take that out and let's empower you in the conversations. Now, he did kind of give a perfect bridgeway into something that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So, and a matter of fact, we might want to start with it on the first, just because he mentioned it, and that is talking about the flight to safety. So one of the conversations today is going to be that if you're within a X amount of time of retirement, there's some things you need to start thinking about. So Zach, why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I know Kimberly's going to talk about the whole conversation and how it works and the way to have a conversational approach to the plan, which is incredibly important. But the first conversation's got to be getting something started in line somewhere, or with somebody that you haven't talked to about finance, not necessarily while you're sitting down to do their needs analysis. And I can tell you right now, you could easily talk to people everywhere and say, good grief, we're in a 15 going on 16-year bull market. How long do you think it's going to last? I mean, do you think we're sitting at the blackjack table with a stack of chips and we're just drunk on our own greed, right? How long can you afford to be in the market? And the reality of that is, if there's anybody that you talk to that's within 10 years of retirement right now, and they have assets that are still in the market, there's absolutely no reason that they should not be looking at one of our guaranteed income annuities. I mean, some of them guarantee 8-9% roll-ups on an annual basis to their withdrawal base. So, I mean, there's really no downside to switching over to one of these annuities. Get a large bonus on that income base and a guaranteed roll-up. You can tell exactly what your income is going to be from that pot of money in 5, 7, 10 years when you get ready to retire. The math problem is over. The concern is over. The worry is over. It's a different conversation, obviously, if you're 10 years away from retirement and you got $30,000 and that's all you've got. You got to have to be a little aggressive and make some money, but you can't afford right now, within 10 years, you can't afford a downturn. And we know it's coming. We don't know when it's going to come. We believe it's probably going to be the first quarter of 25, based on when some of these things that Tim was talking about kind of collide with each other, whether it be the stimulus money being exhausted in November of 24 from COVID, or the changes from new policies that come into the office, and how those impact the market. The market's overvalued. So why chase a little bit more for a month or two more and endanger the retirement stability of your assets. I know Tim's been talking about refinancing your retirement. When the market goes down and the interest rates go down, guess what else goes down? All the guarantees and the bonuses and all the things that are available now. So it is a perfect time to talk to people that have assets in the market that they know they want to convert into a retirement income stream about some of the annuities that we have. We had a client that we met with that unfortunately talked to somebody else. I mean, it's a long story. I won't get into it.
Talk to the bank.
Talked to the bank when they went in to deposit a large check, and the bank wouldn't even, when they saw the dollar amount on the check, they put them right over in with their wealth management team, and they tied them up in 7 and 10-year annuities before they were even able to get out of the bank. And we sat down and talked to them about those annuities that they had. And one annuity, $500,000 annuity, was going to pay them $24,000 a year for life with them. We ran some numbers on ours. That same $500,000 could have paid them 40 grand for life in one of ours. So you got the best products out there. You just got to talk about them. You just got to tell people that story. And it's really simple to say. We ask people all the time, you think taxes are going up or down? 99.9% of people are going to say they're going up. I'm going to say, well, if you've been on a 15-year bull market run, do you think the market's going up or down long term? It's the same basic conversation. You don't even have to ask when and what month. Stop being greedy. If you're within 10 years of retirement, let's lock that income in. Let's lock the growth that you've made, and you'll know exactly what you're getting paid when. Almost like your Social Security. We can go ahead and do that problem, put the numbers together. I know Kimberly's done that for another client that she met with, and they didn't think they had any prayer of retiring. And based on some of these products that we have access to, we literally turn that 4% rule that Kimberly talks about, and that's the market standard. You can turn that 4% rule into the 8% rule using some of these products, where you can literally draw twice the amount of income than a traditional planner would put out there. So anyway, that's the conversation to be having out loud with people that you run across that are in your circles is, let's do this. Let's talk about it in depth.
Can I speak on that?
One thing on that, Zach, this is real important, okay? You mentioned that someone can't afford a downturn in the market, okay? Kind of just so people understand what that means, and let's do a little teaching here, okay? This is where you understanding compound interest, and then you going back and learning when, 50% equals 100%. This is the application of those things, okay? And just kind of walk them through real quickly what that means.
Yeah, so some of you guys are aware of the Time Magazine article from October of 2009 that the cover page said it's time to retire the 401k. That was the first group of people that had predominantly invested in 401ks for their retirement. And we all remember what happened to the market in 2008, 2009. It got cut in half. Well, we call that the lost decade because it literally took people that sat in the market with those investments a full decade to get back to where they were, to recover from that. Why is that? And a lot of people miss this. They think, well, if the market goes down 50% tomorrow and goes back up, 50% next year, then I'm back where I was, right? Even in that recovery, percentages are of what you have, right? So follow me on this. If the market goes down 100% or 50% today and I'm at $100, tomorrow I'm at $50, right? I got half of what I had. If the market goes back up 50% the next day, 50% of what I have, I'm only back at $75. You guys follow me on that? Because the 50% loss was of $100. The 50% gain was of my 50. So I only got half of it back. So I really have to have 100% return to get back where I started. So that's what people don't understand about the market and volatility. Traditionally, if you get within 10 years of retirement, it's time to start looking, especially if you're at a place where those assets can be preserved and can perform and can behave the way you want them to, right? Again, it's all about that conversation that Kimberly would talk about moving forward. But if you're close, or somebody that is close to retirement, there's no reason to risk it. Preserve and protect those assets. And we've got the best products on the market from multiple carriers. And we've seen that time and time again. So just tell the story. Talk about it. Is that good enough, Jody?
That's perfect. And I appreciate that. I think it's a great way we try to do these things is give a great idea. And I just don't want anything to go over anybody's head or actually backfill on that because that just was a perfect example of all the drills, the blocking and tackling coming together on a perfect play. And so that should just give you the bottom line is you should all be bold and emboldened with people that are within 10 years of retirement to kind of throw yourself in front of the bus. Go, oh man, you got to sit down and hear this. You got to hear this story. Do you know what that means? I mean, that kind of a thing. So that's pretty awesome. I'm excited about that. So what a great concept. All right, Kimberly, let's go into the rest of this. And Mauricio, if you want to chime in on any of this, you can, because he's by the way, Mauricio's helped put together the tools that can go give beautiful pictures behind what we just said. Like the calculators can literally show what that means. Okay, so we got all these tools. So let's talk about what we're going to call the conversation, having the conversation. And there's multiple conversations, and we're in a conversation business, guys. That's what you got to be practicing, words, stories, conversations. That's what we do. So let's talk about that, Kimberly.
Okay, awesome. Well, the first thing that I want to share with you guys, to me, was a revelation. I told my team that was in Atlanta last weekend and then yesterday on our call. But we have a guy on our team in Charleston. He's a sales guy, and that's what he does for a living, right? And I met with him the other day just to talk about our business and moving forward and what he needs to do. And he pulled out his leather-bound book, right? His leather-bound just notebook, blank notebook. And he was like, well, this is what I do every day. And when I started doing this, it really changed my business. And I've been in this business for 22 years and it really blew my mind. And I was like, oh, duh, we should all do this. So take it or not, but I'm going to give you this tip. So I have thousands, hundreds at least, of notebooks, right? Pull all of them right here.
It's actually a problem.
This is just on my desk right now, right? And there's more over here, and then there's stacks of papers.
I have a filing cabinet full of them right there.
Filing cabinets full of them, and they're great, right? That's my brain. Those are my notes. That's years and years and years and years and years of learning and thinking and doing this business, right? And all of that's great, and that will not change, trust me. But what will change for me is that's also where all of my thoughts are as far as who I need to contact, my prospect list, my clients, I'll make a brain dump of who do I need to follow up with right now and just put that there, or a piece of paper, or the notes app on my phone. And it's written somewhere, but it's everywhere, right? So this guy literally has this leather-bound notebook. And in his book, he writes down his prospective clients and his clients that he's currently working with. And until he's closed them in his sales business, he doesn't mark through them. And he said, when I started doing that and writing it down, it completely changed my business, right? And he said, on Sunday night, I sit down and I just open my book. And he said, I decide who I'm going to speak to that week, and I kind of prioritize that or look at that, or who I need to touch and who I need to talk to. Again, for me, I was like, oh, wow. So this book, my team, I hope, has theirs as well. They can probably hold it up and show them, but the front of it's going to be for prospects, and then the middle, I'm just going to have a little paper clip right here in the middle. It's going to be for clients, right? They're not always two different people, but clients are people that I'm actively working on or that I've talked to about their product that I don't want to forget. I would venture to guess if you've been in this business for any period of time, you just forget, right? You get busy with something else and they're in your face and you forget to follow up with them. I had a perfect example to my team. It was a previous client that I was talking to on the 10th of January. Going over her questions on her plan and just kind of revisiting things. And I mentioned step one of our financial side of our business, which is what? Who can tell me step one of the financial side of our business?
Prospecting.
On the other side. So that's our business building side, but this is our financial services side of our business. Who can tell me step one?
Increase cash flow.
Increasing income, right? Increasing cash flow. That's step one when we look at people's financial plan, is increasing cash flow. So that was my conversation with her was, your issue isn't that you can't budget. Your issue is that you don't make enough money. We need to make more. You could come to work with me too and do this. And she was floored. She was like, really? You think I can? And we had this conversation and followed up via text that same day, but I forgot about her. I hadn't called her back. I hadn't texted her. I hadn't done anything because I literally forgot about her. She texted me yesterday and she was like, hey, by the way, I have a few more questions about that. Perfect example. If I'd written her in my book and I'd looked at that book and said, oh, I need to call her, then it wouldn't have been 12 days and her reaching back out to me again, because we would be continuing the conversation. So maybe that changes your business. Maybe it doesn't change your business. But for me, that was huge. It was a big deal. So
Real quick on that, Kimberly, I don't know, is my screen showing?
no,
Is
but
my
you're
screen
echoing.
echoing? Just so everybody, there seems to be whatever reason for confusion. I want to clarify this, okay? In the BOP, okay? It is now, right? Page is showing?
Yes.
Okay, right here is when she's talking about, just so we're clear, okay? When you're talking about building somebody's financial houses, these are those 6 steps. It's right here in the BOP. You know, when we're going through the BOP, right here, then we go right here to this page. That is those 6 steps. So the 6 steps that Maria was talking about, which are the 6 steps and 8 filters, which we build the distribution off of. These are the other 6 steps. It's right here in the BOP, and it's also in all of your presentations. So I just want you to see it visually, that it's just right there. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you did that. And it is, I think that piece of paper that you said you're creating with business
Yeah.
6 steps, financial 6 steps, I think it's great because if you get good at repeating to people what those 6 steps are, I think it answers the questions of what do you do and how can you help me and all of those things just in those 6 steps. That can be your answer. So just become good at it, memorize it, let it flow through your tongue. And this is what I do. But when we're talking to people, when we first sit down with people, in my opinion, the art of the conversation is what matters most. If they like you, if they trust you, if they think that you're truly, genuinely concerned about, their future, they will buy from you, right? So the relationship and that conversation is what matters most. I prefer when I sit down with clients to look at their F&A, financial needs analysis, right? Their plan. I prefer to have a conversation with them first. I don't like, and my team knows this, but I don't like to pull up my computer on that appointment because I want to engage with them. I want to talk to them. I want to have those conversations. We have amazing tools, and maybe Mauricio will jump on and show you some of those in a second. But in my opinion, that's for the second appointment to say, hey, let me show you this. This is what it looks like. This is where you are from all that information we talked about last week. This is where we go. So I want to show you in your back office where you pull your paper F&A form, your paper financial needs analysis, so you know how to walk through that conversation. So if I share my screen and I go into my back office, on the left-hand side is obviously everything. So when I go to resources and I go down to financial needs analysis, when I click on it, just kidding. When I click on it, right here on the top, it says download printable F&A. I click on download printable F&A, and here is my financial needs analysis that I can print and sit down and have a conversation with a client. It's not that computers are bad. Computers are amazing and technology is amazing. But I think people love a conversation and they want to engage with you and talk to you before we pull out the computers. If you look at this, the first page are those 6 steps. It will remind you if they're like, what are we doing? Well, we're going to talk about 6 areas of your financial life: increasing cash flow, debt management, emergency fund, proper protection, building wealth, preserving wealth. It's right there at your fingertips to remind you of what you're going to say. But when we go through this process, it literally says, and you'll see there's 3 different pages of gathering data. But it literally says, tell us about you. Tell us about your goals. Tell us about your children. Tell us about your properties. Tell us about your liabilities. Tell us about your assets. Tell us about your insurance. Tell us about your income. And final questions. Why does it say tell us about? Because we want to have that conversation, right? I don't want to say, hey, Sheila, what's your social? And have that be the first question I ask you, because she is going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're just dating, right? I'm not sure that we're there yet. Not sure that we're going to actually, have that first kiss. I don't know. Might not happen. So let me tell you about myself first, right? That is the design of this plan. And for me, I don't really do the tell us about you, the top part first. The very first thing I do is tell us about your goals. If I could wave a magic wand, and you've heard me say it a million times, and I don't care if you make $10 million or you make $10, I am asking that question every single time to every single client. If I could wave a magic wand and tomorrow looks exactly like you want it to look like, what is that? If you win the lottery tomorrow, what are you going to do with it? Right? Why are you working? Why are you going to, other than you have to, right? You have to because you got to feed people and have a roof over your head. Surely life is more than that. So what are your dreams? What are your goals? What excites you? And this conversation, in my opinion, should be the longest conversation of this entire process. That's where you get to know them. That's where they tell you about themselves. That's where they tell you, what their hopes and dreams and goals are, right? That's when they start dreaming again a little bit. And to me, that is the most important piece. And I'll also tell you on the second appointment, when you come back and you give them their, hey, this is where you are financially, and these are the recommendations that I'm going to give you in those sections. If you come back and you say, all right, remember last week we gathered your information. So when we sat down, we talked about your goals and dreams. And these are literally completed F&A forms sitting right here at my hands. So I can read to you. This one says, I wish I were more financially stable and I live closer to my family and their new children. This one says, I want to be comfortable in life. I want to have stability. I want to work 2 to 3 days a week. I want to have a nice house with a fenced in yard, a nice vehicle, no student loans, 10 vacations in the Greek Isles, and I love to travel. This one says, I could go through so many of these, right, about what they say. This one says, I don't want to have to work. I want all the money to do all the things. I want to go visit my brother in Portugal, travel and see the world. I want to go to concerts and listen to live music and go to baseball games and wineries and girls trips and live comfortably and live comfortably without having to work. I could go through that over and over and over and over again because that is their goal, right? So now the question is, how can we help them reach that goal? But on that second appointment, if you literally, and listen to me when I say this, if you literally say, on our last appointment, you said these were your goals, and you read those words as they said them to you, write them down as they say them to you, and read them back to you in their words, their smile goes from ear to ear every single time because you listened, because you paid attention, because you know that's the truth, and that it also reminds them that that's what moves them. So in my opinion, Gail, you unmuted. Did you have something to say?
I was just going to say, for some people, I think it's the first time they feel heard and validated in a long time.
Yeah. And while we're talking, I don't do that for a sales technique. I think I just do it naturally, but I guess it could be considered a sales technique. But just genuinely invest in your clients, be interested and intrigued by them and their conversations, and then everything else they'll tell you. Tell me about your children. How old are they? Do you have any college funding for them? Is that part of your goals? Well, let's talk about your mortgage. Let's talk about your current property. Do you own or rent? I own my home. Great. Well, what is your property worth? How much do you think you owe on it? What's your interest rate? What's your payment? Do you have any other debt on your property? Do you have any more properties? Easy questions, right? All right, great. Well, let's talk about your liabilities. Do you have credit cards? It's an unfortunate conversation for most people, but the answer is usually yes. Okay, tell me about those. I want to know how much you owe. I want to know what you're required to pay by the credit card company, so your minimum payment. And then I want to know what you actually pay. And I want to know that because who can tell me the two things as I'm gathering this data that I'm looking for? Two things.
You want me to say it?
Yeah.
More money.
Monthly money and lump sum money.
Monthly money and lump sum money, right? So if I'm looking at their minimum payment and their actual payment on their credit cards, that tells me the difference of monthly money. If their minimum is $25 a month and they're paying $500, it means that we have $475 a month. We might leave it allocated to credit cards, but it's still monthly money that they're spending that they don't have to, right? So all we're looking at through this is how can maybe we reallocate some of the things that they're doing, and also just teach them how to get out of debt quicker. Mauricio has those calculators that will be coming out that goes through the difference of the snowball method, the avalanche method, and I don't remember what the other one's called, but the other method, right? If I gather this data, I can put it in that credit card calculator and come back and literally give them a piece of education that honestly, it's common sense, but we don't think that way. Almost 90% of the people that I meet with, when I ask them the minimum and actual, if they've got 5 credit cards, they're overpaying 5 credit cards instead of just one until it's paid off and then the next. When you tell them and tweak that small little piece, they're like, oh, duh, I know that. Of course you do. But the pieces of education that we can allow those calculators and tools to bring us back on that second appointment, nobody's telling them this, right? So it gives more value to us and to our relationship because we're not just closing a sale, we're teaching them, right? And we're continuing that conversation. Next section is tell us about your assets. My first question is always about how much you keep in checking and savings on average. Always my first question in this section. My checking is a pass-through. I have 0 money in there. I just use it to pay my bills. Money comes in, money goes out. Great. I write down pass-through. Savings, I've got $5,000. Great. I write $5,000. I don't belabor the question. I just write down the answer. Or they're like, I've got 3 checking accounts. I've got one with 25,000, one with 50, and one with 500. Okay, great. I'm going to just write it down, right? I'm going to write down the information that they tell me until we've exhausted the checking and savings account conversation. And then I'm going to say, awesome. Do you have a 401k? Yes, I have a 401k. All right. About how much do you have in there? I've got 50,000. Okay. How much do you contribute monthly? I contribute 10%. How much is your employer match? My employer match is 3%. What did I just find? Answer me, Sheila. I see your hand. What did I just find?
And then more money.
More money.
Uh,
How
More
much?
money to
7%, right?
yeah,
The difference
of that
between-
3, the 3 and the 10.
if an employer matches 3%, I want all the free money I can take. But that 7% is more monthly money that I just found that might be better served somewhere else. It might not be, but it's there. We're going to look at it. We're going to talk about it. Not right now. This is second appointment conversations, but it's how your brain should think as you're asking these questions. And it's the reason we ask these questions. Okay, awesome. Now we know about your checking account, your savings account, your your current 401k. Do you have any old IRAs or old 401ks, anything like that? Yes, I've got $150,000 over here, $25,000 over here, $5,000 here. Great. Anything else that I haven't asked for? I don't literally go through each of these categories, right? Because most people don't have a lot in all these other categories. Anything else that I haven't asked about? Do you have any stocks, bonds, mutual funds, a Roth IRA, anything like that? I might just list it all together, but most people don't, right? So I'm going to ask that. If you forget to ask about the old 401k, it's right there at the bottom. Do you have a 401k from a previous employer? That is designed for you to ask that question. Why? What is an old 401k?
Qualified money they can roll over.
But in our two things that we're looking for, what's it called?
Oh,
What is
lump
an old
sum,
401k?
lump sum money.
Lump sum money, right? So in my brain, I just found lump sum money. Now I know I have lump sum money too. I found some monthly money in this conversation. Now I found some lump sum money because that's what I'm looking for. So on my second appointment, I can come back and tell them what to do with it. Also ask if they expect any lump sums or inheritance in the near future. It is January 22nd. What are most people fixing to do from a lump sum perspective?
File their taxes.
File their taxes. And when they get back their $5, $10, $15, $20,000, whatever it is, what are they going to do with that money?
blow it if you don't help them.
They're gonna blow it, right? They're gonna have an epic Instagram worthy vacation that everybody's gonna be so jealous about. And that's the truth, right? But if their goal is to get out of debt, and if you're having this conversation with them, you can fix it. You can help them with this lump sum money. So ask that question. Next page, simple. Tell us about your insurance. Do you have life insurance? Yes. I only have it through my employer. In my opinion, I do not put that information here because I don't care. I think if you've got life insurance through your employer, most people, when they die, are not employed because they get sick first, right? And they have to quit their job, or they get laid off of their job because they're sick and they can't work. And that means their benefits go away. So if you're lucky enough to die with life insurance in force from an employer, if that's lucky, great. But most people aren't. I don't include it in my FNA. So I ask about the other things, and then I just ask, does it have living benefits? Is it a term? How long is the term? I met with a parent the other day. He's got a 10-year, $1.5 million term. He's 42. So in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, he's probably got it for another 10 years. He's 5 years in. If we don't replace this money right now, in 5 years, he's going to want more life insurance, I promise you, and it's going to be significantly more expensive. Ask the questions. Talked to Elaine about this earlier yesterday. She has a client and they have living benefits. Really, they have a terminal illness acceleration rider. All policies have that, right? But they don't have critical and chronic illness. And if your clients think that that's what they have, say, awesome. Can I read your policy? And read it. And if that's what they have, great, then they're protected. But if it isn't, have the conversation and replace it. It's that easy, right? And then I go down to, all right, now at the very bottom, I'm like, all right, let's talk about your income. How much do you make right now? How much do you have a pension that'll come from anywhere? Do you have any other rental income that I haven't asked about? Are you getting Social Security, or what will your estimate be at that point in time? And then your final questions. Do you have a will or a trust? No. Great. In your mind, you're going to send a net law link, right? That's step 6 of preserving wealth. Great. Now I can send you a net law link. That's another way I can help you, and also another way you can get paid, right? The last questions on this questionnaire, in my opinion, are the most important. If you were to retire today, how much money would you want coming in on a monthly basis to live the way you want to live in retirement, assuming everything's exactly like it is right now? Not when you're out of debt and your house is paid off, because in your brain that's what you think it's going to happen in retirement, because it's not. Assuming everything today, right? And if people are making $15,000 a month, they might tell you 7. It's not reality, right? So you have that conversation. But regardless, write it down. You know what you're planning for when we're looking at these guaranteed fixed income buckets that are going to come in at retirement. When do you want to retire? Yesterday. I want to work until I'm 70. Great. Write down the answer. And aside from what you are currently doing, how much can you afford to set aside on a monthly basis to reach your goals and dreams? That is your final question, and that is the question that you sit there with your hands folded and you look at them until they give you an answer. If they hem-haw around and you help them out, and you're like, I know you probably don't really have much, then they don't have much. If they're like, I don't know, I mean, then I just say, well, what does your gut tell you? I don't want you to go back and fill out a detailed budget to tell me how much you have left at the end of the month. Anybody can do that. But the reality is, even if you've got $2,500 left at the end of the month, if you don't think you have that in your gut, you're not spending it for retirement. It's not happening. So tell me your gut answer here, and they will give you their gut answer. If it's 0, write down 0. If it's $5,000 a month, write down $5,000 a month. And never leave an appointment without scheduling the next appointment. So I would just simply say, awesome. When can we get back together to discuss this? Today is Wednesday. I'd love to get back together with you Friday or Saturday. What's your availability? Can we do 2 or 4 on either of those days? Give them 2 options. Give them 2 days. Don't give them a yes or no open-ended question, and put that in your calendar and their calendar so you have a way to get back with them. But ultimately, if you have this conversation, and if you are good at asking those questions and creating that relationship, I promise you will get all of that business. You will get their life insurance. You will get their annuities. You will get their, emergency fund planning in place. You will help them pay off their debt. You will get their referrals. And a lot of times they're like, God, people need to know this. I want to come to work with you. because they need to always increase their income, right? So the art of the conversation is truly the most important piece, in my opinion, of all that we do from a client perspective. Jody?
Fantastic. You know, I was thinking about this. There's a couple of things stylistically, like some of you may like using a computer when you're talking to somebody at the first, but whether you do or don't is irrelevant. I mean, that's a you thing, kind of stylistic. What she just said applies regardless. The conversation's the conversation. Now, what I do know is that it is better to do the F&A paper previous to going to putting it into the computer. But you have that conversation because it's the glue, and it creates it gives such a great appearance. Even if you just go sell them a term policy, that conversation really has them much more likely to keep those policies. See, that's the other thing, guys. What she's telling you, and I don't know if Tim's still on, but I'll tell you this, guys. We're not far from the point to where this is going to be required. And as far as my mind goes, it is required. Because if you don't do what she just said and do an F&A to the best of your ability, as simple or as complex as they can give it, you know, you really are going to have a hard time having being in compliance and having persistency, having people keep the business, and you can refer back to these conversations. And so that's great. Great job. Great stuff. You know, and all the things that Mauricio is providing us are all support material. I was thinking as she was going through the new 3 goals, you know, presentation that we have. Sheila's somehow Sheila's on here.
I don't think she knew that. I think I fixed it.
She's the host, but that's it. Could have gotten good. Could have gotten good. But what I was going to say was, when you go look at the 3 goals presentation, use your discretion as to whether to show somebody that at the beginning. I actually identified a perfect spot about 3/4 through that conversation. It would have been a real nice place to have that conversation. So there's some real cool places to use that simple calculator, but I love it. This is great stuff. So to me, this is just a thing everybody needs to hear, have these conversations, give them a lot of power. Mauricio, are you available? Do you want to add anything to what we talked about today?
Hey, I am available. I've been listening to the whole process and
I saw you on
really digesting the whole process. For sure, I would say having that conversation and gathering that data is such an important part of the process. It's probably the most important part of the whole thing, because as you know, people buy you. But at the same time, then the other side of my brain is, okay, what happens after, like, that ability of analyzing the data and strategizing and identifying the right product, right? And that's sort of what some of these tools that we're building are trying to resolve. But yeah, again, if you gather the data, let's just say everybody goes and really knows how to have that conversation, just like Kimberly did. Still, on that coming back, you can use all these other tools to illustrate a lot of these concepts, you know, whether that's
right,
the market volatility, the sequence of returns, the tax risks. Is you're able to come back and you're able to use these sort of calculators to help you explain a lot of these concepts that you're going to hit home, and then eventually will help you sell and properly align. I like the proper alignment of the product with the objective of the client more than the selling, but we are also selling. But you know, I guess the main thing I can add is how critical it really is to, as a professional, as a financial professional, really dedicating time and mastering that ability of having that conversation and gathering the data, the analyzing of it and aligning the product with the client's goals. It take a little bit of time, but once you get it, you know, you're going to be able to get much faster at doing.
I loved it, and I think that's very well put. Thank you for doing it. And actually, next week it will be on what you just talked about, coming back and having that. But here, do a little flow chart, okay? We'll put this together, okay? you come in, you've prospected someone, right? You come in, you have the conversation. At that point, during that conversation, the 3 goals, a little overview is somewhere involved in that on the front end because it's a very much a high level, getting them excited type thing. And then whatever conversations you have, some people like to do a little financial planning. Here's compound interest conversation. Others go straight into that information, but you got to be simple, going straight into information. From there, come back, and there all you're doing is identifying what concepts and tools you need to come back and show them. We got everything, guys. I mean, we got it all. So great job today. Thank you, Kimberly and Zach and Mauricio for your input, and thank you, Tim. So guys, let's rock and roll. Let's get people on our overviews. I'll see some of you at 1:30, and the rest of you I'll see in Florida this weekend. So excited to see all of you guys down there, Maria and Electra and the rest of you guys. So anyone else that's there, and